something here. Okay, what I just did right there, I was playing intervals on the guitar. Keyboard players, piano players on the keyboard, on the piano, they play intervals. Well, we do the same thing on the guitar. We also play intervals, but um, I'm going to starting today. I'm going to practice and different in intervals on the guitar, and but the the rule of thumb the rule of thumb for me and for students of the guitar to understand how to learn the intervals on the guitar is to know one formula, and is the and that formula is the major scale. Then the major scale, we need to know the the intervals in the major scale, and then what are the names of the intervals, and then what make them sound differently than others. So differently from each other, and then we can play some beautiful music on this beautiful instrument. The thing we need to know that the intervals can be played horizontally when we play melody, and vertically when we play chords. And what makes the chords sound so unique is the intervals that they contain, they comprise. Because every chord that we play mostly it's a combination of different intervals that makes the chords, the particular chord sound so unique. So, but for us to understand the intervals, there's one formula we need to know, and it's about the major scale. Okay, so there's a formula for the major scale, the minor scale, for any scale, but for especially for beginners, we need to start with the major scale. We know the formula. I know how to play a major scale. I know how to read music. I know how to write music. So it's easier for me to play those scales, because I studied music theory, so I know how to play. I know how to construct the skills. But to understand the nature of intervals, we have to, in the major scale, the formula. You don't have to know music. You don't have to know how to read music. You don't have to know how to write music if you know that formula and you apply it to your practice. sessions. There are 7 notes in the major scale. Then after you play those 7 notes, the next one is the repeat of the tonic of the first note you started with, and it's called octave. We need to know the first thing, the most important thing that we need to know in the major scale, that there are 2 half steps in the major scale, and we need to know where they are located. We know we have 7 notes in the major scale. So let's take C major scale as an example. Okay, you have 7 notes in the C major scale. We got C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then after that you play the octave, which is the repeat of the first of the C. So you got C to C, but between there are 2 half steps in that C major scale, and we need to know where they are located. And then those 2 half steps, they are between the 3rd and the 4th notes of the scale. The first half step, which is E and F, and the second half step is between 7th and 8th, the octave, and that's between B and C octave. Those are 2 half steps in the C major scale or any major scale. Those 2 half steps, we need to always remember where they're located where they are located in the major scale. That's between 3rd and 4th note of the scale, of the major scale, and between the 7th and 8th note of the major scale. That's E, F, B, and C, C octave. So now we know that. So we call, and the distance between 3 and 4, E and F, we call that an interval. It's the same for the distance between B and C, the half step. That's an interval. That's why we call interval. Is the distance between 2 tones or 2 notes. So you don't have to know music. You don't have to read music. I meant to say, you don't have to know how to read music or to write music to play a major scale, as long as you use this formula to play the major scale. Okay, you start with 1. Between 1 and 2, it's a whole step. That means on the guitar, a whole step you skip. You start with 1 fret. Let's say I play C here on the second string, the B string, I play C. Then if I want to play a whole step equals 2 half steps. So for me to play a whole step, I need to skip one fret. So from C, I'm going to skip one fret and I'm going to play D. Now I have C, D. Remember, I skipped one fret to play a whole step. Okay? That's the major scale. I'm explaining the formula to play the major scale, whether or not you know how to read music or write music. So we start with C on the second string B. We play C and we skip one fret. We go to D and we play C D. Okay, C D. So now we're gonna play E. Okay, between C and D, it's a whole step. Okay, so now we're gonna start with D. We're gonna go to E. Okay, this is D. Let me play E again. No, let me play D again. D. Now to play E in the third note in the major scale, we're gonna skip one fret again. Okay, when you skip one fret, you're playing a whole step. So we're gonna play E. Okay, that's a whole step because we skip one fret. Okay, so far we in the key of C major scale we play. Then let us play those three notes again. Okay, remember it's 7 notes until we reach the tonic. So we start with C. We skip one fret. We play D. We skip one fret. We play E. So that's C D E. Okay, whole step, whole step. Once again, whole step, from C to E. Okay, now this is where it is very important to understand where those half steps are. Okay, now we play E, right? So now in the major scale, to play the major scale, you have to play a half step between 3 and 4. Okay, now we have 3. We have, that's E. The major scale requires, it is paramount that we play half step between 3 and 4. So on the guitar, in order to play half step, we don't skip a fret like we did to play a whole step. We play the next fret up. Okay, so now we're going to go half step from E, not whole step. To play half step, we don't skip a step. We play the next. We don't skip a fret. We play the next fret up, which is now we're going to play. Then we play F. Okay? So let us play. We're going to play again. That's, well, I can say now we already play half of the C major scale. Okay? Let me give you a very important way to learn the major scales. Let us say that the major scale, a major scale consists of 2 sections. Okay? The bottom section and the top sections. And each section is from 1 to 4. Okay? So from 1 to 4, that means you play 2 whole step and a half step. That's the first section of the major scale. And then the second section is going to be the same thing. It's going to be from 1 to 4. It's going to be 2 whole step and a half step. Then between those two sections of 4 notes, you have 1 step. Okay? So you're going to see how I play that on the guitar, so you understand. So remember, I'm playing C major scale on the second string, the B string, as an example. I'm going to play the first 4 notes of the major scale. 2 whole step and a half step. The first 4 notes. That's this first part, the first section, the bottom section of the major scale. Okay? Between 3 and 4 we have half steps. So we're gonna say, all right, second string, B string, C, D, E, F. C, D, E, F. That's the first part of the C major scale, and we call it tetra section. I call it tetra section or tetra part of the C major scale. Tetra, 4 notes, 2 whole step and 1 half step. Now we're gonna play the second tetra. We're going to play the second tetra section of the C major scale. Okay? So we play, remember we play 1 to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. C, D, E, F. Okay? Now to play the top section, the next tetra chord, the next 4 chords, the next 4 notes that complete the major scale, we're gonna skip F to G for now. Okay? Let's start with 5. Okay? So 5 would be G. Right? So we play C, D, E, F. Okay, now that's the first tetra, 4 notes. Let's play another 4 notes starting on 5, which is G. Okay, where's G? This is G here. Alright? Okay, this is G. Oh, sorry. Second string. G. Alright. So we're gonna play 4 notes. That will be the top section of the C major scale. We call it tetra section or the second tetra part of the C major scale. Tetra means 4 notes. And remember, the rule of thumb is for the major scale, we play 1, 2, 3, 4. Between the 3 and 4 is half note. So let's start with G. All right. G, A, whole step. Okay, we go to B, whole step. 1, 2, 3. Between 3 and 4, half step, which is the octave, the C octave. So, not to confuse you, let me repeat the process again. In the C, in the major scale, and I'm using C as an example, you have 7 notes, then plus the octave. The major scale has 2 half steps. It's between the 3rd and 4th notes of the scale, and between the 7th and 8th note of the scale. The 8th note is the octave. The major scales consist of 2 sections separated by a whole tone. Those 2 sections are called tetra sections of the major scale. Okay? Each section consists of 4 notes. And those 4 notes, they have a whole tone, they have 2 whole tones, and a half step, 2 whole step and a half steps. Example: C, D, E, F. C, D, whole step, D, E, whole step, E, F, half step. Like this. C, D, E, F. That's the first 4 notes, the first section of the C major scale. The second section starts on the 5th note of the scale, and we're going to play 4 notes from the G, the 5th note of the scale. That will be the second tetra section of the scale, applying the same rule, like whole step, half step. Okay? So we start with G. G. A, B, C. G, A whole step. A, B whole step. And B, C half step. Okay? The first tetra chord from C to F. Whole step, half step. The second tetra chord. The first tetra section, I think I should say, the first tetra section of the major scale, of the C major scale, from C to F. The second tetra section of the C major scale from G to C. Those two sections are separated by a whole step that's between 4 and 5. So it's going to be between F and G. So in that case, even if you don't know how to read music, how to write music, you can play any major scale without even, if you use the formula. Listen to the formula. To play a major scale, you play whole step, half step, and then whole step, half step. If you do that, you're going to play any major scale in any key. Whole step, half step. Whole step, half step. That means 2 whole step, 1 half step, 3 whole step, 1 half step. Then you have your major scale. That's what you got to do. Then you know that if you on the guitar a whole step, to play a whole step, you start with you start on 1 fret. To play the whole step, you skip a fret. To play a half step, you don't skip a fret, you play the next fret. Okay, that's the major scale. So the intervals, when you play the major scale all the way to from C to C, the distance between all those notes that you play, the distances between all the notes that you play, C, D, E, M, E, F, the distances between the notes are called intervals. Okay? So they have different names because remember the names you apply to those intervals, they go by the numbers, or that goes by the letter, by the numbers of the note, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. So if I play C, C is the first note. If I play C, alright, okay, so is there any distance between C and C? No. So we call C unison. It doesn't move, you just play C. But when you move from C to D, okay, now you move. So there's a distance between C and D that is called interval. So since C is the second note of the major scale, so we call that interval a second. There's another, well, there's also a type. It's also a type of interval, but I'm not going to go through that now. But I just want you to know, when you play the second note, it's called interval of second, interval of third, interval of fourth, interval of fifth, interval of 7, and of course you got octave. But each of the interval I just mentioned has a name. Next time I will give you the name of the intervals in the C major scale, and then you will be able to apply it to any other major scale.